Hey everyone, welcome back to the Overseers. My name's Proelios, and I'm going to be reviewing the Philadelphia Fusion in this episode. Now, if you guys haven't watched my Washington Justice review, you can check it out on my channel. I think I'll also put a link in here so you can refer to it quickly. But yeah, we are going to be doing uh, team breakdowns of all of the 8 teams that have made it to the season 4 playoffs. And I know I say we, but I'm going to be the only one doing this review. Nightwing's currently indisposed, but I hope I can kind of still paint a holistic picture about the Philadelphia Fusion for you guys. And yeah, so what we're going to do is go over the different players in this roster, kind of examine how this team's journey has been throughout the season, and also judge like how far we think they can go into the playoffs and if they have any shot at the championship. So I think let me start off by just saying how kind of streaky the Fusion have been this season. They started off incredibly well. I think they were probably the most consistent team in the APAC region when the season started off, to all of our surprise, because half of their players had still not made it to Korea, which is where the team is based. So they didn't have EQO, they didn't have Funny Astro, they didn't have Poco, and they still don't, and they didn't have Shockwave. So the team had been condensed to Mano, Kape, um, then Alarm, and then some new signings in Toby, Hodba, and Rascal. So these were last minute signings to kind of substitute for especially Poco, EQO, and Funny Astro. And then Shockwave was obviously in consideration as well, but it's not like a hard substitution for him because he's just like another hitscan DPS for the team. Anyway, that aside, the team performed exceptionally well considering that they didn't have a lot of scrim time and they were supposedly even losing to the LA Valiant in their scrim blocks, which was a massive surprise considering how poor of a team the Valiant were. And they ended up being the weakest team, at least in the APAC region this season. So, yeah. Um, anyway, let's move on and talk about some of the pieces that the Fusion have, starting with the tank line of Mano and Hodba. And I think this tank line has been super consistent and like consistently on the same page this season. I don't think there was a single time where Mano and Hodba had different ideas of the win condition and were just doing random things. And no matter what composition they played, they seemed to be in sync at all times. Be it with their ability usage, be it with their positioning, and I think it was some of their synergy which they had carried over from the NYXL last year, and that really paid off this season. So huge props to Mano and Hodba for being so consistent on such a huge variety of heroes. Then, like moving on to the DPS line of Kape, Rascal, EQ, and Shockwave, I think considering how pervasive sort of Kape has been for the Fusion, he has had some great looks, although he hasn't been kind of a star player like he was last year or back in season 1. I think even numbered seasons are just unlucky for him. Anyway, I do think Kape has still been playing well. I think his McCree especially is still super solid. Overall, he just has great mechanics. I don't think mechanics can ever really leave a player if they're grinding hard. But the thing is, the rest of the league has leveled up, so I think Carpe doesn't seem as godly as before. But he's still got it in him, I think, especially based on how we saw him play in these play-in games through which the Fusion qualified for the playoffs. It's clear that Carpe still has a lot of mechanical skill, and he still has some of that clutch potential and playmaking ability that we know him for. So definitely a big boon to still have him on the roster, and he's joined by like another hitscan player in Shockwave, who has seen a lot more playtime during these play-in games. Now Shockwave, like a really young player from the EU region, like performed amazingly well on the Vancouver Titans last season, and is now with the Fusion. And I think, especially in this playoff kind of play-in meta, he's looked quite good. He's also got a lot of mechanical skill. I would say he's almost like he's probably up there with Carpe as well in terms of mechanical skill. But this provides them with the flexibility of putting Carpe on Tracer and then having Shockwave play hitscan heroes like Ashe and McCree, which has worked out really well for them so far. And on the flex DPS front, they've mainly been fielding EQO as of late. And EQO, like, usually a player that we know for heroes like the Genji, the Pharah, and the Hanzo even, like traditional projectile heroes. But this season he's mainly been playing Sombra, and he just kind of like how Jinmu was made to grind Sombra by the Chengdu Hunters. Like EKO has been grinding Sombra for the fusion. I think over time he is improving, but there's still like, excuse me, there's still a fair bit of learning for him to do to be able to play Sombra at this level of like Overwatch. So he's still kind of in development, I think, for kind of for the state at which Overwatch is in right now. But he'll get there, I'm sure of it. Then they've also got Rascal, who is probably one of my favorite flex DPS players in the entire league. But the thing is, he's not being fielded that much, probably because of the superior synergy that EQO has with Carpe, and then the occasional need to play those traditional hitscan heroes for which they put in Shockwave. So I think Rascal's main value will come only if the fusion wants to pull out Rush or Brawl comps, because I think Rascal is probably one of the best Mei players in the league. He's great at her both game sense wise and mechanically. So if at all Fusion decides that hey, we want to play some Brawl, it's going to be a good decision to bring in Rascal. Because I mean they have played some Brawl, but they've been putting Carpe on Mei because they've been playing Brawl mainly on control maps with Carpe Shockwave as their DPS line. And then since they put Shockwave on Symmetra, they put Carpe on Mei, which like they are heroes that complement each other in the current state of the game. So yeah, if they want Mei, they can definitely bring in Rascal. But other than that, in this meta, I don't think he's going to see a lot of playtime, unless they decide to play heroes like the Ashe and the Echo, which is quite unlikely. But anyway, and speaking of the supports, I don't think there's much to say. It's the old reliable backline of Alarm and Funny Astro. Undoubtedly two of the best supports in the game, I would say. They haven't been kind of popping off overall, but they've just been so stable that we don't really have anything to complain about. Alarm has still been making plays every now and then. He's been super impressive, especially if you watch him in the replay viewer. And then you have Funny Astro, who just kind of rejoined the team after a break. They had to kind of reintegrate him into the roster because Toby had occupied that slot for half the season and even more, I think. But Funny Asta just kind of seamlessly made his way back into the starting lineup, not only playing a fantastic Lucio as we all know him for, but also improving his brig play drastically. I think his decision making on her is just brilliant, and we all know he can also play an amazing Mercy. So having him and Alarm is just like all the Fusion need in the backline. And overall, I think surprisingly, their chances in this meta are really good. I think even though we still have to see a lot of other teams playing and like really good teams playing, I think considering how consistent and like strong the Fusion have looked so far, especially against the Spark and the Dynasty in their play-in games, I think we can expect some great things from them. I think their versatility is going to be a big boon in this meta, considering that not only is just like Brawl viable or Ball Diva Poke or Winston Diva Rush, they are all viable in some capacity. And since the Fusion have got players that can kind of fit into all of these different kinds of compositions based on the map, I think they are in a really good spot to go deep into the playoffs. It might be a bit of a stretch, but I think if they play consistently, which I know is challenging for the Fusion, but if they play consistently and remain on like a hot streak, I think they can even win the championship. I think they've got some great potential in this meta especially. So I know it's still unlikely for them to just kind of dominate and like get the championship, because well, Philly has been known to disappoint. But I think they've at least got the potential to do it, if not the likelihood of being able to do it. So yeah, I think if you're a Philly fan, just root harder for your team, because I think this is probably the best shot they're gonna get at winning some sort of trophy this season. So, and it's the biggest one. So they have every reason to work hard and persevere. So good luck to them. And I think they might have it in the bag if they work hard and like play consistently. Anyway, those are my thoughts on the Philadelphia Fusion, guys. If you want to share any of yours, please happily use the comment section. Do remember to share this video if you like my analysis of the Fusion. I'm sure there are other Overwatch League fans who would be interested in listening to new perspectives. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this review. And do join me for the next one as well, which will be about the San Francisco Shock. Stay tuned, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you get notified, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.